starting any moment now. Well, I think now is the moment we're starting. Hi, I'm Lisa Von Drasek, and I am the curator of the Children's Literature Research Collections of the University of Minnesota. And since I can't hear you, can you hear me? Someone in the chat say hi. We can hear you, Lisa. Yay. Oh, excellent. Thanks. Today at the Picture Book Palooza, we have 4 fabulous authors, and I'm going to bring them up one at a time. The first will be Jonathan Stutzman, and his book, The Night is for Darkness. And coming after him is Djenane, and she will be talking about and reading aloud her book, The Mermaid and the Whale. And then after that, we have Kao Kalia Yang with her new book, The Most Beautiful Thing. And finishing up will be with Sophie Blackall and her new book. And I should say, and if we have time at the end, put your questions in the Ask a Question box, and you can ask our authors questions. So, our fabulous technology people, can you bring up Jonathan? Maybe? Or I'll read it aloud, and Jonathan will be in Pennsylvania where there is no snow. And there he is. Yay!
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to read the book. Am I ready to go for this?
You're ready to go, Jonathan.
Awesome.
I hear you, and go for it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, and thank you to everyone who is tuning in for not just my book, but all the awesome books that are going to be read after. This is called The Night is for Darkness. It came out this summer. And it's illustrated by Joseph Kiefler, who is an amazing illustrator. You'll see all his beautiful artwork. Lisa will be showing you on the other side of the screen. So I'll get into this. And for our first story time, this is The Night is for Darkness. The night is for darkness and bright golden beams. For discovering eyes are not what they seem. You can see there the kids are looking out their window of their car, and the headlights are showing that there's deer there. They're on a drive through the night. The night is for running barefoot and fast through sweet meadow flowers and tall, dewy grass. The night is for hiding and searching and finding, for spooky tall forests, for paths long and winding. You see the children are looking out of their window, and if you can see, there's a few little hidden creatures in the shadows. Can you spot what kind of animals they are? I think I see a mouse and a bunny and a squirrel. There's lots of fun and lovely animals out in the wilderness you might not be able to see. The night is for lightning. The night is for glowing. The night is for planning, for packing and going. So they're off to move. You can see all their boxes in their car, and they're having fun in the back seat as their dad drives the car. They're making silly faces with their flashlights. The night is for darkness and all that it brings, the shadows and flickers and creatures with wings. The night is for foxes and wise-looking owls. The night is for rivets and crickets and howls. You can see the way the headlights are shining, it's illuminating the animals so you can see them, but also their shadows. If you look at the book later and you hold it in your hands, Joseph does an awesome job with all the way the light hits things. The night is for searching for worlds not our own. Looking up at the night sky at night is one of my favorite things to do. The night is for finding the love in your home. So they made it to their new house, and their mom is there already. She looks like she's taking care of business, and she's painting all the walls. The night is for stories, for reading and telling of magic and strangers and beans they are selling. So even though it's not quite a home to the kids right now, it feels like one more and more as they have their parents there. They made it even a little fort, and now they're reading stories. And when you have stories in your house, it feels more like a home. The night is for secrets, for prayers and whispers, by mothers and fathers, by brothers and sisters. The night is for holding, the night is for kisses, hushed lullaby songs, and falling star wishes. Do you see the little boy? He found a falling star outside the window. I wonder what he's going to wish on. The night is for darkness and soft silver beams, for closing your eyes and entering dreams. The night is for darkness and soft silver beams, for closing your eyes and entering dreams. Now they're at their new house, and you can see the deer that they spotted earlier. They found a little home with their family, and they're ready to go to sleep as well. So that is The Night is for Darkness. It's written by me and illustrated by Joseph Kiefler.
Jonathan, we were talking a little bit before everybody came on together about bookmaking. Were there any surprises? One of the things I noticed in your book is that even the end papers have illustrations of the moon up there. When you held the book in your hand, were there any surprises that the finished book brought you?
Oh, definitely the end papers. I was not like extremely surprised about, but it was definitely something that I loved because, like I said, I love the night sky, and one of my favorite things to do is just to go outside and look up at the stars and at the moon. There's something so magical about that and peaceful, and I just love how the end papers they had were the night sky, and it just encapsulates that feeling of that calm and beautiful feeling of wonder that like nighttime has in general, and I think Joseph captured that in his art. And again, the way he used light, the little speckles of stars throughout, the way the headlight or flashlight beams illuminated things or the eyes. So that's something that I really noticed when I actually held the book in my hand, because it's different from seeing pictures on a screen to actually holding something in your hand and seeing it all. Yeah, that's one of my favorite spreads. I just love the perspective of that. And another one that I really liked is the thunderstorm page. I think it's right after that. Or no, right before? I don't know. I messed up. But this one, because you have the lights of the car and the beam, but then also the natural light of the lightning coming through. And it's just something I don't think we notice at nighttime. We kind of think it was just dark or murky grays, but Joseph really captured the beautiful colors of nighttime and how everything's in this bluish purple haze. So that's something that really popped when I held the book. And it's really nice to just like look through the pictures again and be like, ooh, look at these beautiful flowers that are popping here. Like this page. I think the colors are really nice.
Yeah.
The little flowers, the tones of the grass. So I think just art in general is wonderful when you actually have that book in your hand and you get to see it and kind of study it a little closer than seeing it on a screen. You don't really get the full color.
With the few minutes we have left, I was wondering if people who are watching today or teachers, do you do school visits now on electronic platforms? Is that something that you do?
Sorry, was that a question for me or for the people
No, that
watching?
was for you.
Oh, for me, yeah.
Yeah, I
I've done
wanted
a
to
lot of
know,
virtual
like, if
visits.
somebody wanted, because you have other picture books, and as the curator of the Curlin collection, I'm really interested in the creative process and revision and how you come to this book. But we don't have time to discuss that now. But is that something you do? Do you go to classrooms for class visits and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, before this year, I was going to a lot of classrooms and libraries and bookstores and doing visits. I've been doing a lot of virtual visits, and that's definitely a little tricky. At least for me, I'm not very tech savvy, but I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah, I love just talking to children about books because I love them so much, and the fact that I get to make them, along with the amazing creators like that, you're going to hear their next stories after me. Like I feel so blessed to be able to do that because it's like one of the best careers out there. I think you get to make books, create art, tell stories, but also do it for children. It's just an amazing thing, and I just feel very lucky to be able to do that and to call it a career. It's amazing.
Well, thanks for being with us today. We'll see you when we do our encore wrap up. And we're going to switch screens now and welcome Djenane. Are you there? Bonjour. Not yet. Oh, I'll grab your book. I have your book. While we wait for our technology to catch up, here is her book. Ah, there you are. Welcome, welcome. It is snowing in Minnesota, but there's a warm place in our heart for this story.
Oh, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Bonjour, Lisa, and bonjour to everyone. I'm so happy to be here. It's my first time, and I'm super excited. Thank you, Jonathan, for the story. It's amazing. Now I'm like, ah!
Yes.
So
And I'm very excited about your book. You are a dancer, a storyteller. Let's go right into the story. What do you say?
Yes, please, let's go. Bonjour tout
Okay.
le monde. My name is Djenane St, and I'm a dancer, storyteller, and I'm super excited to be here today. One thing we're gonna learn, I'm gonna read the story in English, but the story also come in French, Spanish, and Creole, my native language. And I am from this beautiful country called Haiti. And some words to think about is la sirène, the mermaid, la baleine, the whale, her sister. Also, you're gonna hear chapeau. Chapeau is my hat. Tombe, fall into the sea. So let's go. And Haiti, when we're telling a story, the storyteller say creak.
Crack.
Yeah, there you go, Lisa. Good job. Yes, the audience respond crack is our call and response. So let's see if you're a good audience. Are you ready?
Crack.
A long time ago, at the time when the Taínos were still living peacefully in Haiti, the most beautiful place on earth, there was a poor man in a little boat going to the island of Lagonave to find gold. The poor man was always sad because he had no riches except for his little boat, some ragged old clothes, and his hat. The man was convinced that if he went to Lagonave, he would find gold and then he will be wealthy and happy. Thus, he sailed on, wearing his ragged old clothes and his hat to find gold in Lagonave. Mes amis, ça peut passer là. That day, the sky was living in all its blue glory. The rising sun tinged with a golden hue, and steadily the winds were dancing gracefully around, inviting the sea to join the party. Unfortunately, the sea would not join the party, remaining still as a stubborn, pounding child. Soon, a very pleasant sound, not too far away, caught the attention of the man. He immediately noticed something strange moving quickly on the ocean under the morning light. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a là-bas? Je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas. Je vais voir. Curious, the poor sad man paddled as fast as he could to reach the moving thing under the Caribbean's light. Help! Can you help him? Help him paddle because he really needs to go. Everybody, please help the old man. Yes. What's going? What happened now? As he approached closer and closer, the sea suddenly became alive and joined the party as it finally began to dance a congo flirtatiously with the wind. At that moment, in a splash from under the water, emerged the most beautiful and mysterious creature, La Sirène, the mermaid. Then in another splash from under the ocean appeared La Baleine, the whale, as her sister swam graciously around the little boat. Oh, at first, the man was frightening to see these two mythical creatures dancing, singing, and twirling around his little boat. But seduced by the graceful movement and the beautiful song of La Sirène and La Baleine, the man started to dance as well. As he was dancing and twirling joyfully on his boat, his hat fell into the sea. Quickly, the man jumped into the sea to get his hat back, but the mermaid already had retrieved it, swimming away under the watery kingdom, followed by the whale. Madame la sirène a pris le chapeau et elle est partie. Oh là 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 là. Deeper and deeper, the man followed the mythical creature until he himself disappeared under the watery kingdom. Goodbye, old man. Goodbye. Goodbye. 3 days later, as I'm telling you now, the man awoke finally in La Gonave, where he wished to be. He had no gold, no boat, and no hat. He was as poor as before, but something strange had happened to him. Can you guess? What happened to the old man? The man was happy. He had gained connaissance, the wisdom, and his journey under the watery kingdom made him realize that the real gold was happiness into his heart. Oh. And as I was walking by, I heard the man joyfully singing, La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer. La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer. Oh mermaid, oh whale, my heart fell into the sea. Mwen tap danse ak la sirène, chapeau tombé dans la mer. I was dancing with the mermaid when my heart fell into the sea. Mwen tap vire ak la baleine. Chapeau tombé dans la mer. I was twirling with the mermaid and my heart fell into the sea. La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer. La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer. Moi t'as dansé avec la sirène, chapeau tombé dans la mer. Moi t'as viré avec la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer. La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer. La sirène, la baleine, chapeau tombé dans la mer.
Yay!
Merci. Ben
And
voilà. Oui. Lisa,
and
vas-y.
if somebody wanted to get your book, you have a website, yes?
Yes, I have a website, but it's with the group.
The Red Balloon has it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes, the Red Balloon has it, or people can go to the Afutai website, www. Let's see, afutai.com at the end. I think I got it. Yes.
Yeah. So
You can type it too.
yes, but Red Balloon, as you know, if people buy from Red Balloon, that some of the proceeds go to Rain Taxi, and thank you, Rain Taxi, for allowing us to share your story today.
Thank you. That's a pleasure. Thank you so much. That means a lot for me because different version of this story has been told by the time, but this picture re- remind me of the time when I used to go to the island of Lagonave and my grandmother telling story at nighttime because there's no electricity, there's no TV. So for us, nighttime was the time everybody, the community gathered. And and I was the first one here listening to my grandmother, and the way she tell her story make you travel to million years wherever you can be, whoever you want to be. So thank you so much for giving me the space to tell my story. And thank you for all the people for listening. I have some of my students here who saying hi. Merci, bonjour tout le monde et merci encore.
And we'll see you back in a few. We're changing authors right now. Thank you so much. And we're bringing up Kao Kalia Yang, and this is her book, The Most Beautiful Thing.
Hello, Lisa. Hello, everybody. Thank you to Rain Taxi for having me. It's so cozy to be in my house and to share the story that is brand new and very close to my heart with all of you. The most beautiful thing. Without further ado, I will do the reading. These are most of the most beautiful end pages I think I've seen in this book. The dedication. For the everlasting beauty of a grandmother's smile, for Jolie, the grandma in this book, and Jothal, the grandma I never got to meet, but whose love shines through my mother. Kwale, who's the wonderful illustrator, this is her dedication. For grandma who forgot everything, but will never be forgotten. The most beautiful thing. My grandmother is so old, no one knows how old she is. Not me, not my big sister Doug, not our older cousin Lay. My father waits patiently when we try to guess her age. He is my grandma's ninth and youngest child, and even he does not know how old she is. We know that my grandma was born on the other side of the world, across a wide ocean. My grandma came from a time and a place where creatures lurked in the jungles, waiting to chase unwary children. She told us that she once looked into the gleaming eyes of a tiger and felt its hot breath on her face. By the time I was born, my grandmother already had an old woman's face. Her skin was soft but dry like paper, and in her mouth was a single tooth. Grandma said, It is the only thing standing strong in my mouth, this final tooth that my mother and father gave me. I asked to see a picture of her parents. She said, Menai, they lived in a time long before the Hmong learned of such things as photographs. She pointed to her heart. The only picture I have of them is here. The luckiest of the grandchildren got to help take care of Grandma. Lei got to wash Grandma's clothes by hand at the bathroom sink with sweet-smelling pink soap. Doug got to wash Grandma's soft brown back in the bathtub with a soapy cloth. And me? I got to clip her fingernails and toenails while Grandma sat on her favorite stool in the light from the window. I can still feel the roughness of Grandma's heels in my hand, the thickness of her toenails in between my fingers. I can see the bottoms of her feet, thick and brown and broken, deep cracks filled with dirt from long ago and far away. Grandma told me that her mother and father died when she was a little girl. Grandma was just a child herself, but she had to take care of her two younger brothers and baby sister. I looked up at my grandma from the place where I sat at her feet, and I asked her, "How did you get food for them?" Grandma said, "I didn't find enough food. We lived always with hunger eating us on the inside." All my life with her, even with just her one tooth, Grandma never said no when we offered her something to eat. The ice cream truck was singing its song from down the street. I looked underneath the couch for quarters. There were none. So I got ice cubes from the freezer. I offered one to Grandma in my red plastic cup. She smiled at me. When I wanted a new dress to wear on the first day of third grade, my mother said she did not have enough money. She found some nickels and a dime in her purse and offered them to me. I bought hard peppermint candies from the neighborhood grocery at the corner of our block. When I got home, I offered one to Grandma on the palm of my hand. She smiled at me. At the round table with its shaky legs, I used my spoon to mix and mix in the center soup bowl we all shared. There were no pieces of meat, only bones and soft greens. My father said, "The price of meat is too expensive at the market, mayn't I?" I found a thick chunk of meat and offered it to Grandma on my spoon. She smiled at me. We had plenty of meat only when we celebrated Hmong New Year with our aunts, uncles, and cousins. The old table was heavy with whole boiled chickens, more than our family could ever eat. After dinner, our bellies full, my cousins and I sat on the carpet around Grandma as she told us stories. She always began, "It was a long time ago, and I was just a girl." As we listened, our eyes grew round. Grandma twisted her fingers one over the other to show us what the hands of Bunzong, jungle spirits the size of children, looked like. She taught us how to listen for the cries of the fearsome Pinyu by holding our breath until our hearts pounded in our ears. We were always sad when Aunt Ju called, "Time for the children to help clean up." On a cold day, when the snow flew onto the window panes and the light was dim, I asked Grandma about the dirt in her feet. She told me she didn't have shoes after her mother and father died. She went shoeless to the mountains to tend to the family field. She ventured into the jungle to look for wild roots, bamboo shoots, and edible mushrooms. And one day, she was chased by a tiger. As she fled, her bare feet broke open on the fallen branches, and she still ran, blood and dirt mixing into clay with each step. I squeezed her feet in my arms and pulled them close to my heart, a hug for the hard road she's walked to get to me. Each year, cutting my grandma's nails went faster because I grew stronger and bigger and more able. Each year, Grandma's feet felt smaller and smaller in my hands and my lap. Her stories, too, slowed with the passing years. The pauses between her words grew long. Sometimes, as Grandma was looking for the words she lost to the years, I grew distracted from my task, looking at the toys on the floor that needed to be picked up, the unfinished schoolwork, and the younger children who needed to be bathed. Her deep, even breathing would call me back to the moment, only to find her eyes closed in sleep, one hand raised against the window to cradle her head. I grew unhappy with our life. I was tired of getting ice cubes from the freezer when I wanted ice cream. I was tired of never getting the new dress for that first day of school. I was tired of gnawing on the bone in the soup when I wanted meat for myself and my grandma. One evening, I studied my face in the bathroom mirror, wishing my teeth were straight. I came out of the bathroom and said, "Mom and Dad, I want braces. Can I have them?" My mother looked up from nursing my baby sister and said, "We don't have any money. Maybe next year?" My father looked up from my toddler sister who was bouncing on his legs and said, "I wish we could get you braces, Nene, but we can't right now." My grandmother looked up from her special stool by the big window. "Kalia," she said, "look at me." I turned to her in the glow of early evening. The sun was low in the sky, and its golden light fell on her face. Grandma asked, "Is my smile not beautiful?" In that moment, I could see all the times my grandmother had smiled at me. I could taste the cold ice cubes that melt the summer's heat from our tongues, the sweetness of the hard peppermint candies, and the deep flavors of the bone broth in the bowls of boiled greens. Even now, I can still see my grandma's single tooth, white against the shadows, standing tall in her open mouth. Her smile was the most beautiful thing. Through my grandmother's stories, I've always believed that the little girl that she was peeked out at me from the past. And through the writing of my stories, my hope is that that little girl that my grandma was, that she gets to visit my children, and that the past can talk to the present, and together they can dream of the future. So much of life is not about the things we want. It is about the things that money cannot buy, and that is what the most beautiful thing is about. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my newest picture book with all of you.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just going to transition to our next book by Sophie Blackall, and I'll see you after Sophie reads aloud.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So I'll take a deep breath. And let's welcome Sophie Blackall. Caldecott award-winning author, illustrator in Brooklyn. I'm just warning everyone, she's in Brooklyn, New York, so there will be ambient noises from the street. Sophie, so good to see you. Brooklyn's in the house.
Indeed. And my goodness, what an act to follow. Jonathan and Djenane and Kalia, I loved hearing your stories. It's been a wonderful story hour for me, just sitting back, being read to.
So in my hands, I have your newest volume. Could you say the title while I get the cover off?
Oh, do you have to? It's called If You Come to Earth. I'll hold it up too. It's quite heavy because it's 80 pages long, but I will read them quite quickly. It took 7 years to make this book, and I hope you'll see why when we read it. Can we jump in, Lisa?
Let's go for it.
Dear visitor from outer space, Oh, see, I skipped over. Yes, want to see the whole thing? There are end papers.
I just thought the title page really give
The
you
title
a
page is a
feeling.
nice thing.
There we
It's
go.
a scroll that follows all the way in.
The making
out
of a book.
the window.
Okay.
Exactly.
Here
We'll
we are.
start.
Sophie, we're ready. Okay.
Dear visitor from outer space, if you come to Earth, here's what you need to know. You can find us near a big sun and a tiny moon and a bunch of other planets. Ours is the greeny blue one. The green and brown bits are land, and the blue stuff is water. People mostly live on the land in big cities and small towns and tiny villages, or
Page turn.
just in the middle of nowhere. You can see this road follows all the way off the page and squiggles through the mountains just to the middle of nowhere, which is what Australia looks like, which is where I come from. We live in all kinds of homes. And when I was a kid, I would have loved to try and imagine which home I would have liked to live in. But not everyone has a home. We lost our home in a fire, in a flood, in a war. We live in all kinds of families. And in this book, everyone is a real person in real life who I either know or met or have seen in my travels. They're all real people. There are more than 7 billion people on Earth. We all have bodies, but everybody is different. Except for my friends who are identical twins and look the same, except for Mustafa's mole. Can you see Mustafa's mole? It's there. Inside our heads, we are usually thinking. You can't see our thoughts, but sometimes we show our feelings on our faces. Even if we don't feel like it, we get dressed every day. We wear different clothes depending on what we do and where we live, and if it's hot or cold, like Lisa is wrapped in a blanket, for instance. On this page, I wanted to show people from all over the world in the different kinds of clothes that we wear. And I asked my friend Sumaya, who's from Kashmir, and she wears something called a farran, which has long decorative sleeves. But when she needs to do something practical, like trying to wrestle her toddler into a sweater, there's a special slit that she can put her arm through in the sleeve and pin it up onto her shoulder. There's lots of different weather in the world. Some of it's good and some of it's bad. And some of you maybe noticed someone from one of my favorite picture books, which is little Peter from A Snowy Day. Wherever people live, we usually have to go someplace else. There are lots of ways to get there. I'm a kid. Oh, I'm already ahead of you, Lisa. I'm a kid, and kids go to school to learn stuff, so we'll know what to do when we're growing up. The kids on this page were kids at the Brooklyn New School in 2nd grade. There were 23 of them. They're my new best friends. I went into their school every Monday morning for 6 weeks so that we could talk together about what it's like to be a human being and what we most love about our planet, and if we could wave a magic wand, what we would like to change. Grown-ups do lots of things to make the world work. And there are some famous people on these pages and some regular people, but they're all real people. You might recognize some of them. But when people are not at work or at school or sick or asleep, we get to do whatever we want. Whatever we are doing, we need to eat when we're hungry. Some of us have more food than others. We all need food and water to survive. We get water from the rain, which flows into little streams and big rivers and all the way to the sea. You can't drink the sea because it's too salty. The sea looks empty. Can you see this little thing? I don't know what that is. But actually, it's full. Fish can swim, but they can't walk. Most animals can walk or swim or gallop or hop, but they can't fly. Except, what about this guy? I can fly, says the bat. Some birds can swim and walk and fly. So if I had to choose, I'd be a bird. The penguin says, I can't fly. Birds can sing, so can whales and people. People make all kinds of music on our own and all together. Some of us who are deaf talk with our hands and faces. Some of us who are blind read with our fingers. And a kid I met in a 4th grade class in New Jersey told me a secret message to put in Braille down here. He's blind and his name is Nate, and he typed it out for me on his Braille typewriter, but I can't tell you what it is because it's secret. If we are blind, we can imagine colors as shapes and sounds. These are the colors you need to paint everything in the world. And all the colors have names, and people on the internet helped me come up with the names, over 1,500 of them, and they're fantastic, and all the names had a story behind them. Some things are part of nature. Some things are made by people. Some things are big, and some things are small. This is a grain of sand, not to be confused with that, which is a freckle. Obviously, we knew that. Some things are invisible, like wind, an invisible cloak, ghosts, gravity, electricity, the smell of roast chicken, old socks, frangipani, wet wool, sound waves, and germs. We know a lot about germs right now. Some germs can make you sick. So can eating a woolly milk-capped toadstool, or breathing in smoke, or getting spat on by a slow loris. A slow loris may look adorable, but it has poisonous spit. Actually, it has poisonous stuff in its elbows, and if it licks its elbows and then spits on you, the spit becomes poisonous. Sometimes people get hurt by accident. Sometimes we hurt each other. Mom! It's better when we help each other. I've jumped ahead of you, Lisa.
Oh, sorry. It is better if we help each other.
And one of the best places to help each other is a library. Babies are not very good at anything. Kids are good at lots of things. Grown-ups can do just about anything until they are really, really old. But by then, the babies are grown up and can help. Older people are good at telling stories about the world when they were young, just like we saw in both Kalia and Djenane's stories. Kids are good at making up stories that haven't happened yet. There are lots of things we don't know. We don't know where we were before we were born or where we go when we die. But right this minute, we are here together on this beautiful planet. If you come to Earth, you can stay in my room. Love, Quinn. P.S. How many eyes do you have? Are you small or big? Do you have any pets? When is your birthday? Is it always dark where you are? Are you going to visit us? My friends and I want to know. They were real questions that first and second graders asked me, that they would like to know if they ever met an alien. And if you open the book underneath the jacket, as Lisa has done, you will see the aliens. But when I did school visits across the country, one of the things we did together was draw aliens. And I promised those kids that maybe those drawings would make it into the book. And so on the page with all the kids, if you look closely, they are all drawing aliens. And those drawings of aliens were made in schools across the country and in other countries too when I did school visits.
Wow. So that's if you come to Earth. Sophie, thank you so much for sharing this book with us. One of the things I was thinking about was Quinn. You said they're all real people. Can you tell me a little bit about Quinn?
Yes.
Who tells the story, the narrator?
Yes. So this book was partly inspired by children I met all over the world. I have the incredible good fortune of working with Save the Children and UNICEF. And so I've traveled to countries like Rwanda and Bhutan and India and Democratic Republic of Congo. And I've met kids in schools in all of these countries, hundreds and thousands over the years. And all the time I was looking for this kid because I came up with this idea while I was spending time with kids to make a book that was about all of us, about their world and mine and the planet we share and how we really have so much more in common than we have differences. But I didn't find that one kid. And then I was visiting my old school friend in Australia and meeting her children for the first time. And her son, Quinn, was 7. And he was chatting. And we talked about, is there life on another planet? Because if you think about it, there are as many planets in the universe as there are grains of sand on all the beaches in the entire world. And if you think about that, could we really be the only planet with life? And Quinn started drawing planets for me. He drew me 17 planets with all of the creatures who lived there, and he named them all. And I said, Quinn, if a visitor from another planet came to visit Earth, what would we give them as a snack? And without hesitation, he said, mashed potatoes, because we don't know if they have teeth. And I thought, I have my kid. But because I have a gender fluid child, I wanted, and because I've met so many Quinns over the time who are girls or boys, I just wanted Quinn to be Quinn. So the real Quinn is a boy, but this Quinn narrator is just
neutral.
Quinn.
Just Quinn.
Quinn.
Fabulous. Sophie, in one of the comments, someone said, I, as a former first grade teacher in me, wants to use this the whole year's curriculum. And I have to say, when the first time I read this book, I did think, what a great mentor text for creative writing, for choice, for exploring our own stories and the stories of our friends and other people. So I'm going to do a little pitch for the University of Minnesota that published this book, Writing Boxes. And it's all prompts from children's literature, and it was published before your book, so your book's not in it, but I think it'll be a great help. You can download it free from the University of Minnesota.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So you can do that, and you could write postcards to your alien friends and perhaps describe what's going on in your life today.
Exactly. I'm hoping lots of kids will do that, because this is one kid's view of the world, but everybody's world is different.
Fabulous. I'm going to ask our technology hosts to bring everyone up, and we seem to have a question in our question box, and let's see what that says. It's for Jonathan. When you wrote your book about the night sky, did you have any idea what the illustrator would include a family moving to a new home? Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, great question. I think for all of us as writers, we have certain images in our heads when we're writing the story and writing the text. And I know some of you are illustrators as well, but I am not an illustrator. I definitely think visually, so I had a certain idea in my head. But when Joseph took the text, the illustrator will then expound on that and create something, maybe a parallel story or things that I hadn't even thought of. And in this case, he definitely kind of took my text and created this underlining story of this family moving from one place to another place and kind of seeing the night sky as they're traveling, which I thought was lovely, and I hadn't thought of that. But I actually had a specific line in the text about packing and moving and going, and that brought back a lot of memories of me driving to my grandparents' house when I was a child, and we would always drive through the night. My dad loved driving at night, so I would look out the window of my car and like see just this beautiful world that I had never really seen before, because like I said while I was telling my story, the light is just gorgeous. It's different. It makes everything beautiful and magical. And I had that in the story, but I had never told him about it. And then he created these images that kind of like painted this picture that I was feeling as I wrote the book, which is pretty awesome.
There are no more questions in the queue, but I know that maybe one of you has a question for the other, and this is your chance to do something like that. So raise your hand and I will call on you. Or just shout it out. Oh, yes, Kalia.
I have a question for all of you. What is the greatest discovery that you made in the writing of your individual books?
Okay. No dead air.
Okay, well, I'll jump in. I think it's the discovery I make every single time I start a book, which is I can't do this alone. And you realize when you're making a book how many people it takes to make a book. If you're collaborating with an illustrator, then it's definitely, two parts that are greater than the sum, and it's your editor who you work with. And I've been incredibly fortunate with the editors I have worked with who just take this book and we shape it over years sometimes. You come to Earth, it did really take 7 years. But then it's all the people along the way, all the kids I met with this book, but when I was doing the book about the lighthouse or the research. And so I think all of us, we may start out with this fully formed idea of our book, but for me, the discovery that I learn every single time is I can't do this alone, it takes a village.
Djenane?
For me is the way many years ago, it was impossible for my sister to read and write. My grandmother never knew how to read or write, but they were the best storyteller ever. So to have that opportunity now to put their stories into writing and make it available for everybody, for me is the biggest gift ever, because it was prohibited. Now, through writing, I can put their stories alive. So that's the biggest thing for me. I feel so honored by that.
Kalia, since Jonathan had a chance to answer a different question, I'm bringing your question back to you because I'm watching the time and we just have a few minutes left. So what did you discover?
I think the biggest discovery for me was how many stories actually I could have written from my grandmother's life. I think our elders are these huge treasure chests full of stories, and choosing it was the most difficult thing. Choosing this one story about that single tooth was the most challenging thing. But I think that one of the things that I've heard is that there are so few picture books where you see like a granddaughter cutting her grandma's toenails. So some of the norms of my life are things that are not yet represented in picture books, which then gives me a kind of responsibility to do it and do it well.
Well, on that wonderful note, I'm going to thank each of you for joining us on your Saturday morning. Thank Rain Taxi for giving us this opportunity to share. Thank you, Rain Taxi. And I do want to say that my presence is here because of the University of Minnesota Libraries. The Curlin Friends is supporting and financing the sign language interpreters for the other sessions. We couldn't have one for ours, but once it is recorded in a future date, there will be captioning. So I just wanted to assure you that you can share this in the future. And to our audience, thank you. Over 80 people who came to the platform and shared stories, and I hope that you're reading and sharing. And and the next panel, selling into the next panel, right? Graphic, middle grade graphic, and it's going to be fabulous. And Paul Von Drasek said, do it again. Thanks, Paul. Okay. Thank you all for coming from all over and being with us today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Bye, Sophie. Mwah.